we always talk here about we got to pick up our cross daily. But some of the things that I have overcome, before I was married, I deal with porn, deal with you know, sexual desires when it came for just having all kind of different women, and those were things that I had to set aside, right? But it wasn't. I couldn't just. For me, it seemed like I couldn't just set it aside on my own. But what I did was I gave it to God because the flesh is weak, but the spirit is willing. So the spirit inside me, what I mean, was like, yo, you gotta quit this. And when I truly gave it to God, and that's when I find out a lot of things in my life, like it's about truly releasing it and giving it to God is when things change. I
I
mean,
remember. I remember when you were doing accountability. You were putting restrictors on your internet access to see, to not see certain kind of stuff. You were deliberate about
yeah,
this whole thing.
yeah, and you have to be. You have to be deliberate when it comes to this because if not, man,
Mm.
if not, the enemy's all around every corner.
Well, it shows you that you love sin more than you love God.
Yeah,
And that's
but not,
that's the problem that we run into.
and our flesh does. You know what I mean? The desires of the flesh is to do what the flesh wants to do. That's what our natural desire right now is sinful and it wants to go against God.
Mhm.
That's what our desires is. But the spirit that's in us, you know what I mean? And that's why I think, when Jesus is saying, when we, you know, confess with our mouth and believe our heart that we become new creatures, that we gotta set that old man has to die. You know what I mean? Because the only way for things to grow, man, sometimes you gotta kill it. You gotta kill your old self. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And I think a lot of people struggle with, you know what I mean, different things because even I'm saying, matter of fact, I'm just talking about Christians right now, is we struggle with things because have we truly died to our old self completely?
Mm.
And
Do we want to die? You know, do we
yeah,
want to die? We have a lifestyle. The hip hop community has created this for people of color mostly. This very it has created this very tempting lifestyle, and it's hard to turn that down, especially when you're young, to be a part of that. So it's like, what do you do? Do you turn your back to this lifestyle as far as having fun and being a part of the culture? And you may miss something, but God is saying you can't have your feet in both rivers. You
yeah,
know,
for sure, for sure.
we're going to mute you guys if you're not talking, but if you want to chime in, we do have a number of people on the panel in the background, guys, and we're going to just do like a voice call and have them come up because people are still commuting and doing dinner. But you'll hear their voices come through. Does anybody want to unmute and talk about any of this stuff? We'll feel free to jump in and just have us put a bookmark on what we're talking about. What else you got for us, DK?
Nah, nah. I mean, for me, that's the main thing, when it comes to, what I mean, just relying on God's strength, man, that we got it. Man, we're dealing with sin. Like I said, the flesh is so weak that if you like a lot of people like I can have the willpower to do something. And sometimes we can have the willpower to do some things. But I think when it comes to overcoming sin or strongholds, that you need willpower, but you also need the power of God, you know what I mean, to help change you and make you, you know what I mean?
That's true, and I'll give. We're supposed to go back and forth with our testimony, so I'll throw mine in there. A
Yeah,
big thing that I had to overcome was cursing and music.
yeah,
Um, I've been pretty much sober from cursing for a decade or so. It's been quite a while.
nice.
I think my son heard me curse one time in his entire life. We almost got hit by a car, so I guess I can't say completely 100% sober.
Yeah,
But the thing that helped me was trying to keep my heart pure, because out of the heart is what the mouth says. And that's
mm,
where the difficult part comes in. I don't use the N word, you know, but a big part of that was what I was also putting in my heart. I stopped listening, to hip hop music, habitual hip hop music, and all this other stuff. And I don't put that in my heart. And for me, I was very sensitive to that. And I had to let that go because that was a stronghold for me. And once I let that go, God was able to do other things in my heart because that space was no longer occupied by a sin that was
mm,
habitual.
Yeah.
So going back to what DK was saying with pornography and lust, we have to be able to put things on the altar. And it may
Mhm.
be you have to put your sexuality on the altar. You may have to put your culture on the altar. You may have to put your feeling of weaknesses on the altar. You know, you may feel like you don't have something, so you steal. You feel like you need to take a drug because you can't be yourself. You may have to put all these things on an altar so that you can get more of God. And guess what? It may not be easy. You
Mm-mm.
know, you may have to pick up your cross and follow the boss.
Daily.
Anybody in the panel want to discuss that?
Yeah, I can discuss that a little bit. Yeah, like DK was saying, yeah, the problem is sometimes the flesh can just overwhelm your spirit.
Mm,
You know in your spirit that you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that, but the world and the world makes it so easy for the flesh to triumph over that.
mm. Easier than
And
ever. We
yes,
now have a culture where drugs, you don't have to go to a drug dealer to get drugs nowadays. You can go not only get it from a doctor, hard narcotics, but you can buy a bottle from a friend or family member. You know what I mean? You don't have to go to a store and steal a bunch of DVDs anymore. You can just get, a Fire Stick and bootleg it. Stealing has become easy. Homosexuality, which is our part of our third topic, is so easy. As a matter of fact, is almost becoming a class of people who can't be criticized for anything. So we've really got to a point where sin has become so easy and it's become so accessible that it's like, if even if I why not try it? And that's not the world that God wants us to live in. And we have to be stronger than ever as Christians to not partake in that system.